Good evening. The capital is bracing itself for commuter chaos. The biggest rail strike in more than 3 decades will begin in a few hours, with 40,000 signallers, maintenance and train staff walking out on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Tomorrow will bring the biggest disruption for Londoners as tube staff strike too, closing most underground lines. It's all because of a bitter row about pay, post-COVID timetables and job losses. London First estimate the 3-day strike will cost businesses in the capital more than £50 million in lost revenue. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris, with the latest.
It's one of the best barometers of commuter London. Every day, thousands of workers cross London Bridge heading for the city. These days, there are far fewer than before COVID, especially on a Monday. Tomorrow, the bridge will be even quieter.
I won't really be affected because I can work from home.
I'll have to work from home and do my clinics from home.
Yeah, working from home for me.
Yes, we'll be working from home.
Work from home is the last thing Luigi wants to hear. At his takeaway in Holborn, he has no illusions about how bad the strike will be for his business.
Deadly, to say the least. There'll be maybe 50% down on a normal Tuesday, if you're lucky.
Carol's waited 6 months to see a heart specialist in East London. It's a train ride away, but the appointment's on Thursday, the day of the second rail strike.
I can't cycle, I can't walk to the hospital, no. And I can't stand up for very long, so queuing for a bus is not going to be easy, to be honest.
The RMT confirmed the strikes were on, saying it had rejected offers from Network Rail and the train companies. The union's hardline General Secretary fired a salvo at ministers.
The fingerprints of Grant Shapps and the DNA of Rishi Sunak are all over the problems on the railway and indeed the problems in this society. And until they allow these employers to negotiate freely, I can't see that we're going to get a settlement.
4 out of 5 trains won't run tomorrow, largely because the strikers include signallers who play a crucial role in control rooms. Network Rail says it recognises the cost of living and wants to offer a pay rise, but only if the unions agree to modernise the railways.
The pay award is dependent on us being able to reduce costs so that it becomes affordable.
That means cuts.
Otherwise, if it's not affordable, we won't get ourselves into a position where we're not effectively making more demands on taxpayers and on passengers.
In other words, higher fares. One route which should escape the worst effects of the strike, at least for part of the day, is a section of the new Elizabeth line. Between Paddington and Abbey Wood, there'll be a near normal timetable during the morning and afternoon, but even here there'll be no trains after 7 o'clock in the evening. The Elizabeth line is run by Transport for London, which has its own problems tomorrow, thanks to a separate strike by RMT members on the Underground.
I think tomorrow's strike has been timed to coincide with the National Rail strike. Our disputes are different, and I would encourage the RMT to call off the tube strike tomorrow because it's just going to cause more financial damage to TfL.
The RMT says it's in a fight with the government, but ministers argue the dispute is between the union and the rail firms. Londoners are caught in the middle. Simon Harris, ITV News, Waterloo.
And for those of us who do need to travel around the capital this week, some services are running. The newly opened Elizabeth line will be open, but will be impacted by delays. The eastern and western sections will run a reduced service and journeys need to be completed by 4 p.m. Throughout the week, the DLR will not be part of the strikes, but will be running reduced services. The London Overground will run trains between 6:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, that's Tube Strike Day. And trains like Thameslink, C2C and the Heathrow Express will be open, but running a reduced timetable. And buses are running all week, but TfL has warned they will be extremely busy with long queues. Simon, all in all, it looks like it's going to be a nightmare getting around London. Any chance any of these strikes will be called off?
Well, the RMT does seem determined to press ahead with the industrial action. MICK suggested today it could last for months. The government the union is convinced that the government's plan to modernise the railways in the wake of the pandemic will amount to huge cuts to the workforce. In a recent speech, the Prime Minister floated the idea of closing mainline ticket offices, as he did on the Underground when he was mayor. But meanwhile, the Transport Secretary insisted today that the government will not get involved in the dispute.
We will be leaving this to the employers, who are the right people to negotiate with the unions. Indeed, the unions are in daily talks with the employers. Or at least they were, until they walked out an hour ago to go and hold a press conference saying that the strikes would be on.
Well, it's clear that tomorrow is not going to be a good day to travel around London. Network Rail says it will run as many trains as it can. Some managers have been trained up to take on the role of strikers, but still only 1 in 5 services will operate. And of course, there's another strike on Thursday, although not on the tube this time, and another one on Saturday. If you want to find out how the strikes are going to affect you throughout the week, you can do so by going to our website, itv.com/London.
OK, Simon Harris at Euston, thank you. Good evening. It was billed as the biggest rail and tube strike in 30 years. The chaos that followed, though, was very different to the industrial disputes of the past. A city with workers now used to working from home stayed away in large numbers. That's no consolation for the businesses missing out today. We'll have more on them in a moment. As for the union, well, they say this action is needed to prevent job losses and to fight for fair wage rises. Our political correspondent, Simon Harris, is at London Bridge Station for us tonight. Simon.
I've reported on countless tube and rail strikes over the years, but this one really did feel different. The RMT might have been hoping to cause chaos, but the truth is many Londoners don't need to rely on trains like they used to. For a start, there are far more cycling commuters. Thanks to bike lanes and summer weather, it's a lovely way to get around. And thanks to COVID, many Londoners can now work from home. London hasn't seen anything like this for 30 years. Clapham Junction, Britain's busiest railway station, was anything but. At Neasden in North London, rows of underground trains sat idle. Normally these would be the backbone of the busy Metropolitan line. With few trains and even fewer tubes, many commuters hit the road. This was the A40. But pictures can be deceptive. Despite the strike, trains were running. For some passengers on the Great Western Main Line, it was a relief. Others found the skeleton service frustrating.
It's really hectic, stressful, and really I'm getting to work late. I'm a nurse. I'm supposed to be at work now.
I just had to wait for a few minutes for the trains to be cleared, then I was fine. So it didn't impact me much because I'm just going to the next station. So far so good.
Network Rail and the train companies hope to run around a fifth of the normal timetable. Commuters might have expected overcrowding and long delays. It's coming up to 8:30 in the morning, peak rush hour, and this commuter train into Paddington appears to be much quieter than normal. It's safe to assume many of the regular passengers have opted to work from home. Philip flew into Heathrow from Lyon for a business meeting and was prepared for a struggle to get into town.
Quite surprised we got a train because we weren't expecting any trains at all, so that's been quite good. Organisation at the airport's been brilliant. Compared to if this was in France, this would be a disaster, but no, it's been really well organised, really polite, really helpful.
On London Bridge yesterday, commuters made their way to the city in their usual post-pandemic numbers. Today, there was more evidence of the return of work from home, but those who did make the journey found it easy enough.
Trains were running regularly, they were very helpful at the station.
The fact is that they want to inconvenience everyone as much as possible, so we can't rely that we can get a train back home.
The first train out of Slade Green, mate. No one on it.
The city was quieter than usual. No mad rush to the sandwich bars at lunchtime. In the Grapes, Tuesday would normally be a good day. Not this week.
It's just costing me money, but then again, it's costing the staff because 2 staff can't get in because of no trains, so they're losing a day's pay. There could be no bonuses this week because they're not going to sell enough beer. It's just ridiculous.
We're very sorry for other working people having their lives disrupted. We don't want that to happen. We want a settlement as quickly as we can get one. But unfortunately, we feel we've had no choice but to take this action. Talks to end both the rail and tube strikes are deadlocked. On the Underground, it's not about pay. LU workers got an 8% increase in April. Here, it's about possible pension reforms and the loss of 600 station jobs.
The posts that are being taken away are posts that can be taken away but are still having a safe public transport in London. It's really important to reassure RMT members no one will lose their job.
Have you been on a picket line today?
No.
Would you like to?
No, I'm the Mayor of London. I've been working incredibly hard.
There were longer bus queues than usual, very few tube trains, and at London's big mainline stations it felt like lockdown. But working from home has changed the dynamic of the once crippling rail strike. Over a number of hours this morning, great numbers of commuters who needed to get to work found a way to do so. I've got to say, I think getting home tonight is going to be a very different matter. Already some of the very last trains have left. Here at London Bridge, the station shuts in 25 minutes. Even the Elizabeth line comes to a standstill at 7 o'clock, and things will not be back to normal tomorrow morning. Thameslink, for example, says it will have no trains running before 7:15 in the morning.
OK, Simon, thank you very much.
Now, there was a respite between rail strikes today, but Londoners may be forgiven for not noticing the knock-ons of the dispute impacted the rush hour this morning, and many commuters continued to stay away. Well, our political correspondent Simon Harris is at Euston Station tonight. And Simon, no sign of any let-up then?
No, Lucrezia, even if the two sides had been able to reach an agreement today, there was little expectation that it would come in time to halt tomorrow's strikes. In the event, talks between Network Rail and the RMT came to nothing, and the union confirmed the strike is on. Relations between the two seem to have soured even further after Network Rail asked the union to formally start discussions about the abolition of 1,800 jobs as part of a modernisation programme. In Parliament, there were angry exchanges between the Prime Minister and Sir Keir Starmer.
If he's genuine about preventing strikes, will the Prime Minister tell this House how many meetings he or his Transport Secretary have had with rail workers this week to actually stop the strikes?
What we're also trying to do is cut the cost of transport, which is a big part of people's weekly outgoings, by reforming our railways. That's what we're trying to do. But he's standing with the strikers, Mr. Speaker, and lifting the cost of transport for everybody. That's the reality.
It looks as if there'll be no more trains tomorrow than there were during yesterday's strike. And those that are running will start late and finish early.
The service that we're offering will be significantly reduced, so please do check before you travel and only travel if necessary. I don't think it will be a much better service tomorrow than it was yesterday.
The last trains on strike days will be very early. So, for example, from here at London Bridge, the last train back to Brighton is at 17:35. At London Victoria, the last train is around 5:45.
And as we learnt this morning, the knock-on effect of the strike will be felt on Friday morning as the companies struggle to restart their services. So no morning trains on Friday either. Lucrezia.
All right, Simon, thank you.